Hey guys, it's an exciting day at Ortho Thrive. Today is our 50th episode. I want to thank all of our guests and viewers that have supported us up to this point. It's been a wild ride and I can't wait to get to 100. Today we're talking to one of the experts in orthodontic consulting. We're going to talk about how to recruit the best talent and how to make your practice more efficient. Let's get started. Welcome to our milestone episode of Ortho Thrive. I'm your host, Richie Gurzon. Today we have LeeAnn Peniche with us. LeeAnn currently serves as the founder and CEO of Peniche Associates with over 30 years of experience in the orthodontic consulting field. She has earned a reputation as one of the country's premier orthodontic consultants. LeeAnn, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Great. So LeeAnn, I'd love to just hear a little bit about your path and how you got into the ortho consulting world.
Well, it wasn't by design. It was actually, there was a need and I happened to be at the right place at the right time. So it wasn't that I always aspired to be a consultant. I started out in orthodontics when I was 17. Wow. I graduated from high school when I was 16, went to college. And then that summer when I was home, I got a job in an orthodontic office. And for the next 10, 12 years, I kind of went in and out of ortho. I was a flight attendant. Youngest
that's
flight
a fun
attendant.
job. I have a few friends that are flight attendants.
Yeah, youngest flight attendant Continental Airlines had ever hired. I had to move to Houston, but I fell in love and moved back to San Diego. So, and then back to ortho. And then in 1989, there was an orthodontist who was really, really struggling. And I was on faculty with a management company. Back then it was called Paradigm. Yeah. And they said, can you help this doctor out? And so I called him up and I said, he was in Los Angeles, I was in San Diego. And he said, I can't afford a consultant. His best month ever was $12,000.
Oh.
And I said, well, I'm not a consultant, but if you can pay for a hotel, I will drive up and I'll spend a day in your office and see what I can do. And the first day I was there, we did $28,000 in production.
And was that the universe telling you to go in a certain direction or what? Wow.
It was about case acceptance. He had new patient exams walking in the door. He just wasn't starting them. And he was in an area where there were gangs. There was blood, the Bloods on one side and the Crips on the other. And there was a phone booth outside that literally had blood on it. So when I was walking,
I shouldn't laugh, but that's, oh my gosh. Okay.
I know. When I was walking into his office, I was like, what did I get myself into? Yeah. And even his reception room floor had a hole in it and I had heels on it. My heel broke off in the reception room floor. I had to go back out and get
you serious?
I'm serious. This is my
you had another pair of shoes, thank God.
I did. Women always have more than one pair of black pumps with them.
Makes sense.
So anyhow, conference calls were brand new back then. And I did my work. I drove back to San Diego. And there was a conference call that night, which was a big deal back then, with about 30 doctors. And somebody said, did you hear what happened in Chuck's office? This little girl came in and this is what she did. And I was the little girl.
Oh, wow. Are you serious?
Yeah, that's how.
You got right into the community with the success story. Perfect.
Yeah. So, and literally the next Monday, my phone started to ring. They would call me at Dr. Rubin's office. Yeah. That's where I was working. And they would ask me if I could come in and help them.
Oh, wow. So it all started with that one success and it just kept on going.
It literally, it was overnight because what I was doing back then was so new and so different that everyone said, I want this. And I just had to figure it out.
That makes sense. So when did you officially start Peniche Associates?
1989.
Oh, so you knew what to do and just started right there. Wow.
It just started right there. And I really had a lot of support from Dr. Bud Rubin. When I would be booked out too far, he would literally look at his calendar and he would say, listen, I was planning on going on a ski trip here. Why don't you go ahead and go out that week? He would open up time in our schedule so I could go.
Man, having the support of someone that believes in you is so important, especially in the beginning.
Absolutely. Sure. Yeah,
so I
wouldn't be here without him.
Yes.
Pardon me?
How large is the team now? So we went from one.
We have a team of 20.
That's awesome. What a great story. So we wanted to talk a little bit about staffing shortage issues because everyone's all of my clients across all industries are talking about this, especially in the ortho world. What do you think? I'm kind of curious what you think the environment was like pre-COVID. What do you think it is like now?
So pre-COVID in ortho, it's always been difficult. It was the number one complaint, even before COVID, that it was difficult to find great people. We always encourage offices to build a farm team. Don't always try to be lean and mean, because a lot of our team members are, they're in their 20s and 30s when they start out. This is a second income. They end up having families. Their husbands get, job transfers. You just have to expect that that's going to happen, especially with your assistants in an office. So we believe in having a farm team. So it's always been a challenge if you kept trying to hire the same people. So we've always encouraged to go outside of orthodontics, be willing to train, hire talent.
Yes, that's great advice. And we found some of our best employees and interns were English majors. They'd never taken a marketing class in their life, but they can write, and they can express themselves, and you can train the rest. It was an interesting revelation.
Well, we always, for our clients, we absolutely encourage them to use the Wonderlic Test. Okay. It's a logic IQ test. It takes 12 minutes.
Interesting.
And when I stumbled across it when my husband, when we were first dating, and I would come up to his office, he's a retired orthodontist now, but he would give people this test. And I said, oh, that's dumb. And I did not believe in it at all.
It's nice that it's 12 minutes. A lot of them are so long.
Yeah. So it's 12 minutes. You give this test, and it really, you just rate them out. And do they have the ability to grow with you?
Yes.
And that's what you're looking for. And you don't say it's an IQ test, and you never tell anyone they failed. And you never go and give it to your existing staff, because you would never look at them the same if they didn't score well.
That's good advice. Because I could see everyone saying, I'm going to do that right now. Everyone's going to take it.
So when we give it to people, we say, do not go back and give it to your team. But we use that as a tool going forward. And I personally, I've broken the rules, probably 7-8 times over 20 years. Every single time it did not work out for me. And my clients that use it will say, just trust it. It's a really good way to know if this person can grow with you. It doesn't mean they're going to be a great, employee. It just means they have the ability to learn.
But if they don't do well, even if you love the interview, you love them personally, don't
do it. I've done it. The first time I broke the rule, I told my husband, I can train her. She's a records tech, she's adorable, blah, blah, blah. 3 months later, I said, honey, she's not working out. And he goes, you hired her, you fire her. I'm like, no. I don't want to shoot Bambi. But we had to let her go. So you don't want to put people in a position that they're not going to be successful.
Oh, that's a good lesson. So it's always been a problem. How has it changed after COVID? Has it just gotten increasingly more difficult, or any specific new challenges?
The answer is yes. In my opinion, is a lot of people left their different industries, including orthodontics. If they weren't happy there, it gave people an opportunity to really take a step back, reset, and say, really, what do I want my life to look like? So you've had people leave all kinds of industries now.
Absolutely.
Because they didn't want to be, have that kind of stress. They didn't want to feel like they were in an assembly line. So with that, you've got a lot of talent out there. So we're really pushing offices to look outside of orthodontics, as we always did. Make sure that you are marketing. You have to market your business, to amazing candidates. If you want world-class talent, why are they going to go to you?
Yeah, absolutely.
You're
always selling something. Yep, I agree. So that's intuitively, that's what I kind of think of it as from an entrepreneur's point of view. If there was a great resignation, as they're calling it everywhere, that means there's a ton of really amazing people out there. We just have to use the right bait to kind of catch them, right?
Exactly. And orthodontics, typically it's 4 days a week. There's no nights, there's no weekends. You're about smiles all day long. So you need to market that, make yourself attractive. It used to be that oh, well, we might hire you. And, it was a different market years and years ago, but it hasn't been that, pre-COVID and certainly since COVID. And also hiring people from other industries. You can make specialists in your office. They don't have to know how to, bend wires, bond brackets. With all the technology out there, just create a digital specialist. They have to bond attachments and do scans. So it's a completely different.
So the farm team idea allows you to do that as well, because you have a larger team. So you can do this, have this be specialists. You have a larger team of people to choose from. All right. Interesting. Yeah. So do you have any other best practices just for recruiting?
Well, you're always going to use your basics, your Indeed. I don't really see much come from Craigslist. I encourage people to put signage up in their office that says we're growing and we're seeking world-class talent, because anybody who applies says, I'm world-class talent. I encourage you not to have ads that say that you're looking for a treatment coordinator and for a progressive office, want. I mean, that isn't any different than the guy down the street that's looking for someone.
That makes sense.
Your ads have to be very attractive. I mean, a great example would be Nike. Go look at Nike's ads and how they position and what they say. They are so exciting when you read their ads that you want to apply. I mean, I've read them and go, I want that job. I don't even know what the job is.
Yeah,
I want the job.
Be part of the team. Exactly. I'm going to do that right after this. That's very interesting.
Another thing is creating a business card that said, we've spotted world-class talent, or we think you're amazing, so that when you're out in the community and you run into these people, give them that card. You don't want
that's a good idea.
Right. You don't want to just say, it's your business card, because that honestly, if a doctor goes handing that to a hostess at a restaurant he thinks is amazing, it's going to look like a pass, and you don't want that. So if it says we've spotted world-class talent, or we think you're amazing, then you're putting it out there, and it's a number for them to call.
That makes a lot of sense. We have some good friends of ours have a model and talent agency and event, and they use a similar tactic, but I see how it's basically the same thing. Mm-hmm. And you're giving them a compliment right off the get-go, which is nice. It's like warm and fuzzy.
And we always encourage you to build a library. So when you're out in the community, even if you are completely full in your office, but you see talent out there, literally create a digital library. You might have a mom who comes into the office, you think she's amazing. And if something ever opened up, you'd want to hire her.
Yeah.
Because what happens is when you go to hire, you can't remember who those amazing people were. You literally have to build a library that you can go back and say, oh gosh, remember her. So you are always going to be recruiting. That is just part of the business. People are going to, the minute you think you have this perfect team, then somebody's going to get pregnant. There's going to be a job transfer. Somebody who wants to retire.
Yeah. Would you ever consider an office hiring someone part-time to kind of get them in the loop, and then one day they can kind of bring them full-time? Does that work?
Pre-COVID, I was absolutely against part-time. There's a different mentality for a part-time person, and the way you look at them and the way they perform. Since COVID, and we're doing a lot of remote work,
that's what I was going to ask next.
A little bit more open to it, because I think people's commitment now since COVID is different. So it's on a case-by-case basis, in my opinion.
Do you think there's any roles that could be done remotely that an office should consider hiring for?
You know what? This morning, I got a video from one of my consultants who's in a client's office. And this one was really original. I loved it. Yeah. That their scheduling coordinator was moving, but everybody loved her.
Okay.
So they literally set her up virtually. When you walk in, you see her on the screen and she greets you.
What? Oh,
yes.
They went that far?
They went that far.
Now that's very interesting.
And I watched the video.
Is it working? Like the perception of the
yes. The patients, the patients know her, so they're really excited to see her. And new patients coming in, she's got this great energy, even though she's remote. It's beautiful. But,
That's fascinating.
it works.
All right.
I did have a client also in Florida, and this is several years ago. He got one of his team members was out on maternity leave, and he actually got a little rolling robot, and it had her face on the screen. And from home, she could roll around the office and talk.
He really did this? Because I joke to the team all that you can. I should ask them, because I just like, one day when I'm not in the office, and I work remotely, I'm going to get a robot and just like, hey, what's up, guys?
Absolutely rolled around the office and would talk to people, and they loved it, and
that's
what they did. And she worked the afternoons because that was the busiest time in the office. So, yeah.
So the answer is yes. Remote employees are now becoming part of an orthodontic practice.
It is awesome. Financial coordinators, insurance coordinators. It's not unusual. Even our company, we act as people's financial coordinator, insurance coordinator. If they lose people, we're doing it remotely. So,
and that works out, right? I mean, they know that you know what you're doing, obviously. So that's great. It's just some peace of mind. It's always nice. Okay. So are there any benefits now that we have to offer as an orthodontic practice that we didn't before, just like must-haves, you think, to attract the right talent?
One is I do believe in paying well. So
that's good to know.
You've got two people sitting in front of you. I'm going to go for the personality and the talent, and somebody who's tested well, and they might be $5 more an hour versus this one that didn't test well, and she may have experience, but doesn't bring that energy.
Yes.
So you need to reward people for their talents and what they bring to the practice. Benefits as far as everything from 401ks to your profit sharing, medical, or at least an allowance. And yes, that's a standard out there now.
Nice. Okay. Even profit sharing, that's standard now?
Yeah, pretty much.
Is it like earned after a certain period of time, or is it right off the bat? Someone's going to get
No, it's usually, it depends how it's written up, but it's usually a year, and then they're in and they vest over 6 years.
That makes sense. That's what I would.
But you want somebody to stay with you the long term. The more they have vested in there, that says, you're taking care of them.
Absolutely. Yeah. And they're definitely, you're aligning everyone's goals, you're all rowing in the same direction. I always like doing that.
I want my team to do well. I want them to be successful in life. And part of that is making sure that when they're not working for me and they retire, that they have something.
Absolutely. So is there any way to really enhance your corporate culture? What are important factors to make sure your corporate culture is attractive to new talent?
That you have enough playtime as well.
Oh, interesting answer. All right.
I do believe that, yes, you have to have your morning meeting, and it isn't just a business meeting where a scheduling coordinator, treatment coordinator are just reading off the new patients coming in today. I believe that you set that culture by your morning meeting is actually reports that start with your clinical staff about the people that have already loved and trusted you that are coming into your office. Let's talk about them first, because that really sends the message to everyone. We're going to take care of these people. And you know what? We have an opportunity to start some more. So I always want the clinical team to give their reports first. Anyone who needs some special love and needs, that sets the tone for the culture in the office. I believe that at the end of the day, that you should use a game board. There's 12 games a year. It's called January through December.
Okay.
And on your game board, last patient walks out the door, we yell meeting time, and we run and we say, how many new patient phone calls, how many wins, how many care calls do we have, how many starts, how much marketing did we do? And just, 6 or 8 things that give you your daily and your month to date numbers. It keeps everybody focused on what's important. So we are a business, but we do want to do the care calls, the notes, the wins, asking for reviews. We want to celebrate our successes, because that way, you go on the field together and you come off the field together. I also believe that that play means that you do schedule outside events. My mom and dad were married for 58 years, and my dad had all these rules.
Amazing.
Yeah, had all these rules. And he said, he would take my mom on a big trip once a year. He said she had 6 months to look forward to it and 6 months to remember it. So,
Okay. Sure.
So why do I bring that up? Because I think an office should have an event once a year. And it could be rock climbing, whitewater rafting, zip lines, something that's out of your comfort zone.
Yeah.
Has nothing to do with business.
Okay.
And the mistake I see offices is they'll say, oh, we want to do that, but not everyone will go. I say, choose your date. The date is the date. Whoever's not going has to stay back and work in the office. They can choose not to go. And it's on a work day. And yes, they're paid for it.
Oh, that's interesting. They're paid for it and they have plenty of notice. Yes, I think that's reasonable.
Absolutely. So, it's on a Thursday that you just schedule down patients.
And you make it out of their comfort zone so it's memorable? Was that the idea there?
Something. It's not, we're all going to go to the spa. We can always go to the spa.
Yes.
And when you are going to the spa, you're all in different rooms, right? You're not together. Something that is just a little, it may be paintball.
Oh, that would be fun. This is a good idea. I think we're going to apply this to our own team here. Okay. That's very interesting. And of the clients I have that have really good teams, they do that very thing. I just hadn't kind of connected the dots there.
Well, if you want to go to the next step of that, I believe once every 6 weeks that the doctor should say, and it's always at the same restaurant, I'm buying, I will buy lunch, no business conversation. You could get one of those cubes that, you pull and you just ask a question. What was your first, crush? What was your first car? Things like that.
Yeah.
But it's the same restaurant.
Icebreakers.
Close, convenient, but once every 6 weeks. My dad took my mom away on a small trip every 6 weeks, overnight, golfing, away from the kids, and just to get her away, something new. And so I apply that lesson as well.
I know it's great to see these parallels between a marriage and a business because it does make a lot of sense. And we do take the team out. We don't make it as regular as that. That's interesting.
Go and build it into your schedule. Everybody knows. Whoever goes, goes. Whoever doesn't, doesn't.
Yeah, right. Why wouldn't you go to that? Food is so easy to sell. Who doesn't want free food? All right. So talking about the salary, how do you determine it? Is there some sort of calculation you're using?
You can always, Google what the salaries are in your area and get a range.
Yeah.
Most of the time, the range is pretty on. When somebody comes in, if they are asking for $25 an hour, what you don't want to do is pay them less than that.
Mm-hmm.
Because you know what they really wanted. So if they're asking for something more than you can truly handle, I wouldn't even make an offer. I wouldn't hire them because that's where they want to be and they will be looking for that.
Really? That's very interesting.
I will encourage some people. When I started working for Bud Rubin, I said what I wanted. Mm-hmm. He actually paid me $100 more a month. And granted, this is a long time ago.
Really?
And he said, because you're worth it, and I'm going to expect more from you. So he paid more, and he always did that. So if somebody wanted, so if somebody wanted, let's say it was $20 an hour, he would pay him $21. Say, but I have expectations. So when that person left, the performance really walking in the door was higher. So it is a different way of looking at things. And I know very few people will do that, but maybe you're just going to do it on certain positions, but you want to consider that.
So what if you have an employee that maybe there's a couple of things you really want to improve? You don't want to let them go. Is giving them a raise ever the solution? Or do you never go to that step? Is there something there's a bunch of other steps in between? Or
if somebody's not performing, I'm not going to give them a raise to think that they will perform. So here's what we believe in is standards. So our practices are broken into departments. You've got a scheduling department, financial department, clinical department, treatment coordinating department. Each department has standards. So an example would be a TC. The standard is 6 to 8 new patients. If you're doing traditional exams, 6 to 8 new patients per day per TC.
Yes.
That's a standard. She'll have a case acceptance and observation return rate, all of this. She knows that when she's hired, what the standard is. It's not a goal, it's the baseline performance. And what do you get for hitting that? It's called a paycheck. You get a paycheck, right?
Yep.
So if you set standards, then your team members know when they're doing well. As a TC, if she's only averaging 4 new patient or 5 new patient exams per day, then she knows she needs to get up there at the front desk and make sure they're filling her schedule. Especially if you're booked out 6 weeks in advance, but you're only seeing 5 a day.
Yeah.
So if she's not hitting her case acceptance, she's going to ask for help. If she's not getting her OBS return rate, it's the same thing goes for a financial coordinator or a scheduling coordinator or a clinical assistant. So if people know what the standard is in that position, they know how well they're doing. They can self-correct, they can ask for help. And when you do a review, it's a whole lot easier.
Yeah, that's absolutely true.
Yeah. But
so you're holding them accountable every day, because you talked about the kind of the gamification of all of these metrics, right? So every day we're getting to see if they kind of met baseline.
Their standards, and their standards, you're looking at really, the results of the month. And then a 3-month, if we're talking about a treatment coordinator, you're really always looking at a 3-month average there. But there's a difference between practice standards and a job description. A job description describes a task, and a standard describes, at what level you're going to perform.
Yeah.
So if a scheduling coordinator has a job description, she's going to answer the phone. The standard is you're going to answer the phone by the second ring.
Gotcha. That's fair. Yeah, that would make the review process much easier and more black and white, because you would go into it kind of knowing what to expect because all the data was there the whole time.
Yeah. So if somebody isn't meeting the standards, I'm not going to give them more money. I'm going to look at, what area they need to improve in. And maybe this just isn't the right position, but I really like them in the office. So I'm just going to repurpose them. I'm going to move them to a different position.
That kind of goes into my other question. So what if you promoted someone because you believed in them, but it's just not working out? They're not doing well. Do you
They know
put
that
them back?
Because they're not hitting the standards.
Yeah. Do you put them back in the position they were before, or do you have to let them go?
I would move them back into the position because they created value in the office that you trusted them to promote them.
Yes.
So they're still very valuable to the practice.
Absolutely.
I would just change the position again. And if they weren't hitting the standards, then they would want to go back to their other position.
With the reduced salary that they had before?
The answer is yes. And it would depend what the salary was.
Yeah.
And if they've gotten comfortable with that, and let's say they went out and financed a new car, I mean, you have to really look at the big picture of that. It may be if you're putting them back in the other position, it does go back to that base salary, but you're putting in some side games with them so that they can increase.
That makes sense. They're not just stuck there. They see a light at the end of the tunnel.
Right.
Gotcha. So if you have an employee that's not meeting these standards, how far do you take it before you have to just, let them try something else and leave?
Find a whole new home.
Yes. Is it a month, 2 months, or what is it? Because if you're having these meetings every day, you're kind of seeing the pattern. How long do you let it go on?
So let's pretend it's case acceptance with a TC, and her case acceptance is at 50%, but it was the month of December. It's not going to be over a month because I'm always looking at a trailing 3 months. I'm looking at an average, and I'm also January is going to be a rock star month. She's probably going to get 150% or 130% case acceptance.
Yeah.
So it really depends on the specifics. If it's something that this person is just not playing well with the team, that's got to be handled right away.
That makes sense.
If they're sucking energy from the office and it's not just about delinquency or the number of patients per assistant per day, they're not able to hit that. Or your scheduling coordinator, her without appointment reports. Those are things that we can fix. But if it's somebody who's sucking energy and not playing well, then that's got to go.
Yeah. So even that could even apply to someone who's highly productive, like her numbers look great, but they're not fitting in with the team. They still have to go, would you say?
Yep. Because they're not productive. They might be productive in doing this.
Yes.
But we are more than this. So you've got the standards, but the standard starts with being the best part of the patient's day for us. That is the number one standard for all job standards and job description. Everything that we do is about being the best part of the patient's day, being memorable.
Yeah.
You can't be the best part of their day and then be the worst part of your coworker's day.
It's true. I remember being at some teams back in the day where there was someone like that. It made that day miserable for sure. I know I heard you, and I was glad to hear you say this, like scoring marketing in your daily metrics. So how do you feel about whose role the marketing is? Should you think most of the time it should be all done in-house? Should it all be done outsourced? It should be a hybrid? Does it just depend on the practice? What are your feelings about that?
So it does depend on the practice. When a practice hits $3 million, a marketing coordinator, I want to say, is more of a necessity. That it is, the practice can afford to have that. But to get to the $3 million, they had to do the marketing to get there.
Yeah.
So typically, when let's say we have a startup, a lot of times we're outsourcing. And then as the practice grows, that outsourcing is partnered with the team members. So if I had 6 team members, what I would do is I would break that office up into 3 committees. There might be a professional committee, an internal committee, and then a community committee. And then the digital, a lot of times, is outsourced. And because then now you're going to an expert.
Yeah, it's a specialized skill. I get you. Oh, so it is hybrid in the beginning, in your opinion, because you kind of have to
it is there until they get to about $3 million. So let's pretend we have 12 team members.
Yeah.
You'll never get 12 team members to agree on anything, especially 12 women.
Okay, I can see that. Yeah.
So, but can I take that and have 4 people on each committee and get a result? And the answer is yes. I can get 4 people on the internal committee to come up with what our internal programs are going to be in the office, whether it's contests with the patients, whether it's promotions with the patients. I can get 4 team members on the professional committee to go after the target doctors. I can get 4 team members to get the community calendar and work with the schools and the charities in the area and the good neighbor programs. And then when you have a marketing meeting, you have a lead on each committee.
Yeah.
And everybody's giving their reports. Now we're getting something done. Otherwise,
I love that everyone is doing it. There's not just some poor soul who has to do everything, and do our whole job and doesn't really know what to do. And you have to build
that into the schedule. The doctor has to allow that time in the office.
And they literally have it blocked out where this is the activity they're doing. You can't ask them to do anything else, right?
Exactly.
That makes a lot of sense. So, obviously, if we can have a more efficient office, there's less stress on the team. It kind of gives us a little bit more leeway. And we've talked to a lot of remote monitoring companies in this last year. And a lot of them are telling us, well, you can either grow without hiring new team members by using remote monitoring, or you actually could just have less employees. How do you feel about that, and just the idea of this technology making offices more efficient? And what do you do with that efficiency?
Well, using the remote monitoring absolutely works, but you still have to have somebody in the office that's the specialist that's coordinating it. That's at the practice level. That can't go away because that's a relationship that you have with the patient. So do I believe in the remote? Yeah, I do. Does it work? Yes. But you have to have that mediator there, that the patient still is connected to this practice. If not, then it's just some computer or some person sitting, somewhere, and they have no relationship with him. That's not going to build a referring patient. So the answer is yes.
That's a good way to put it. Yeah.
Yeah. So the answer is yes. Use the technology. Does it reduce the number of, let's say, clinical assistants, as that being the example? And the answer is yes. But I also see the clinical assistants, our need for as many is going to be reduced with more technology out there. Traditional braces, you can see 12 to 15 patients per assistant per day. If I'm in a liner practice or a Brius practice, then I can see, 15 to 20 a day. Usually it's between 17 and 18 because the appointments are shorter. I don't have bands and brackets. So now I need less assistants, or I keep the same number of assistants and I can start more patients. So it's, what do you want to do with that? Do you want more time off? Do you want to bring down your staffing and your payroll expense? Or do you want to grow?
Also, really, it's what are your goals? It can achieve either. Like that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, my husband, we worked Monday through Thursday, off for 10 days. We had 13 weeks off a year. What was important to my husband was time off.
I totally understand that. Absolutely. It's very appealing to work a 4-day week and have a lot of time off. But
yeah. And then 10 days off, so he worked 3 weeks on, 1 week off.
Oh, that's
great.
Beautiful. Are there any other methods for becoming more efficient?
Really working with, honestly, setting up standards that makes the practice so much more efficient. The team, everybody knows what their department needs to do, but they all know how it's connected. And that just really increases efficiency. You can cut back patient days by doing that and having more organizational time.
Yeah.
You can't ask your team to hit certain numbers if they're seeing patients Monday through Thursday, they don't have any downtime. You're going to burn them out. And so if we can create that time, whether it's a half a day or a week, or whether it's one full day a month, that they know this is my admin time or my organizational time. And then the other thing that's really different now is creating those specialists in the office, so that as new technology comes up, you have that digital person, or you have somebody that's doing the clin checks with the doctor. One of the things that I see that I really struggle with in offices now is my doctors will be out in the clinic and then they run back very quickly to get on their computer to do a clin check or to check their online study club, and they're answering, Facebook, and then they run back to the clinic and then they run back and they're all stressed out.
Yeah, of course.
And I say, why are you running to your computer? If you have a break in the clinic, you should be in your reception room talking to the parents. You should walk out to the car, and see the parents outside. Go say hello to your scheduling coordinator. Go to the lab and tell your lab tech, who doesn't get all the fun things every day, how amazing they are. Go talk to your financial coordinator. Quit having a stronger relationship with your computer than your team and your patients.
It really is all about relationships. I'm doing some training tomorrow, and it's one of my pieces of advice when you're doing social media. Just treat it like a real life relationship, and it's just going to make it so much more engaging. Don't pretend it's just some fake virtual person out there.
Yeah, the doctors are some of them are creating their own stress because they want to run back to get on their computer, and I'm like, stop, shut the door, stay out there.
That makes sense. So if you did say you have kind of a lean team, you implemented some of these efficiency ideas, that almost would create the farm team and allow you to turn them into specialists like you're talking about without actually hiring, right? You could use the efficiency that way. That would be smart. Are you seeing a trend of anyone trying to do more clear aligners, less braces to get that efficiency? Is that something that you're just seeing?
I am.
Now?
I'm seeing a lot of that. I'm seeing a lot of, aside from aligners, other technologies as well.
Yeah.
I said the name Brius earlier. I'm seeing that being a trend that's really catching on.
Yeah, that was a very interesting show. I learned a lot in that show. I had never heard of them before.
Yeah.
So is there anything else you want to cover before we wrap things up?
No, I think that we did a good job.
Yes, thank you so much. I mean, I think it was very informative to help a lot of people. I really appreciate your time.
Yeah, well, I really appreciate it. And one of the things that, if I had to give anyone some coaching from this, I would say, you're not going to do everything that somebody recommends, but whatever you do, go into it 100%. Some people will try something and they'll say, oh, well, that didn't work. Well, they weren't all in when they tried.
Yes.
So it wasn't that whatever somebody's coaching you on didn't work. It's, did you do the work? So any ideas that you want to do there, give it 100% and then decide, did it work for you? So
great advice. All right, LeeAnn, thanks for being on the show.
Thank you very much for having me. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. Bye. LeeAnn really gave us some solid advice today. I'm going to apply a lot of it to my own team. And like she said, if you just take one or two of these pieces of advice and focus on them for this year, you're going to see those improvements within your own team. If you want to be a guest or you have an idea for a future episode, just go to orthothrive.com. You can contact me at richard@orthosalesengine.com. Keep grinding, keep thriving, and I'll see you next time.